Howdy, and welcome back. Today, I'm going to be covering what I currently, at least on October 5th, 2025, what I currently believe to be the most likely Democratic nominee for president in 2028, and the most likely Republican nominee for president in 2028. That, of course, being Gavin Newsom for the Democrats and J.D. Vance for the Republicans. J.D. Vance from Ohio and Gavin Newsom from California. So, as is the custom, I'm just going to be going over all of the safe states just to quickly get them out of the way. Of course, somebody like Newsom, I feel like, could recapture New York and Illinois back over 15 points. I feel like New York will be an easier sell on that than Illinois, but I could see Illinois getting back over 15, and of course Hawaii. It's just like Gavin Newsom as a candidate he's somebody that a lot of Democrats have seen as refreshing, just because he goes low when the Republicans go low as well. And so people seem to like that energy that Gavin Newsom has on the Democratic side. And of course, on the Republican side, J.D. Vance is seen as this successor to Trump. And of course, he's got his own set of safe states. We're just going to fill all of those in real fast. And Vance, of course, he's definitely like the guy to succeed Trump, and he seems to be having a very easy pathway to the nomination in 2028. So that is what I think we can see from the GOP side. So I think that pretty much covers all of the safe states for both sides. Of course, Vance is going to have a lot more of these rural states, as is the custom, and Newsom is going to have the more concentrated and urban states with like urban populations, that sort of thing. So we got all of that. Now let's start going over the likely states. We're going to start with Vance. I think he gets Kansas by like 13, 14 points. So a safe margin is going to be anything over 15. Likely, of course, it's going to be 5 to 15. I think Kansas gets down under 15, but not by much, and it's the same in South Carolina. And I also believe that to be the same thing in Florida. I think that Florida is just very gone for the Democrats, just in any capacity. And I think, if anything, Newsom being the Democratic nominee, we might not see Florida shift left. I'm going to be so for real. I think if this matchup happens, Floridians, from what I can gather, really dislike Newsom. And I think that I'm not sure if Florida would move left at all, but I do think that it would at least stay stagnant. I don't think Florida would get over 15 points. We might see Vance win it by 13 or 14, something like that. Same as around Kansas's margin, but I don't think that it gets over 15 at the moment, even with Newsom on the ticket for the Dems. Also in this list is going to be Iowa and Vance's home state of Ohio. Iowa, of course, was won by 13 points in the last election. Donald Trump won the state by 13. And although I think somebody like Bashir could bring it way down, Newsom is not Bashir. And Newsom does have some issues that, in terms of how people perceive him, and certain demographics perceive him, and the overwhelming demographic in Iowa would not see Newsom as somebody that they would want to break from the GOP for. Newsom does strike me very much as somebody to continue sort of the Biden and Harris coalition, but sort of like just win them the 2020 voters back and not quite press the GOP further and expand the map. He just seems like somebody who could recapture territory, and Iowa is certainly not part of that territory. And we'll get to the territory soon. I promise you on that. Alaska, I think, probably will go by maybe 10 points. It's the same in Texas. I do think that we suburban voters, especially in the DFW area, my home state, of course, I'm well versed in how this goes. But suburban voters have been trending Democratic much more as of late. But I don't believe that that they would break for Newsom like they would break for maybe other Democrats. Of course, Nebraska's first is going to be likely probably like 13, 11, 12 points for the same reason that Iowa is going to be about 10. But yeah, Texas, we're probably going to see some reversion amongst Hispanic and Latino voters, but ultimately speaking, they are not going to swing the state very much on their own. And I don't think that suburban wine moms, for example, are gonna, be too enthusiastic about Newsom necessarily. I feel like places like Tarrant County and Fort Worth, that's gonna stay red. Places like Denton and Collin, suburban regions north of Dallas, those are probably gonna stay red. It's the same with, Houston and San Antonio suburbs and all that. So Texas probably going to go red by 9-10 points. So a good like 4-ish point swing to the left, but it's definitely not going to be in play for some time when another Democrat might be able to move the needle on that a little more. So that Maine 2nd District is also going to be up there for the Republicans' baseline 219. And so for the Democrats, that is, of course, going to be places like Maine at large, going to go by, maybe 8 to 10 points, that sort of deal. Nebraska's second, probably honestly going to be a similar margin, 8 to 10 points. This is the Omaha region and some of its western suburbs. So I could see it going by about 8 to 10, something like that. Colorado and New Mexico, I think, also get here for Newsom. New Mexico might swing left by 1 or 2 points. I think Newsom might grab it by about 8. Colorado, probably going to be the same. I think he wins it by maybe 13 to 14, similar to the margins that Biden was winning by, but I don't think he gets it over 15. That's going to be a big thing there. Virginia, I think, is going to be also likely blue. I do think that Newsom, he gives a lot of voters in places like Northern Virginia something to vote against, in that people would want to vote against the incumbent administration and its party. I think it's just going to be vitriol out of Northern Virginia that will swing the state probably to about maybe 12-ish points for Newsom. I think this is going to be a state where he makes like the most significant gains, if anything, just because a lot of federal workers were laid off. This is also going to evolve. This prediction map is going to evolve as the gubernatorial race coming up in about 30 or so days comes and goes. So we are going to keep an eye on that. But if Spanberger is winning by like 20, then yeah, maybe I'll move this over into the safe category for more people. New Jersey is also going to be a likely state, maybe again 10 to 12 points for Gavin Newsom. The state really did shrink down in margins, in terms of margin for Kamala Harris, from about 15 points down to, or from 16 points down to 6. That was a pretty significant shift. I do think that somebody like Newsom could maybe make some of it back, but it would not be enough to sort of take it off the radar for the GOP going forward. New Jersey I've seen it be described as like the Texas of the Northeast. It's one of those that keeps edging the opposition party time and time again, but never goes. And I think that's going to be something similar. I think that these two states are going to be at about the same margin. Like Texas will be probably red by 10. New Jersey will probably be blue by 10. I think that's understandable. Minnesota is going to join the bunch as a likely state. I think it gets back up over 5, Harris did win it by 4 with its incumbent governor Walz on the ticket, but I do think that somebody like Newsom could recapture some support, maybe win it by 6, something like that. 6 or, okay, I'm not going to go there. 6 and the number less than 8, of course. And then, You know what? I think that is where I'm going to call it for the likely states, just in total. So we're down to the 7 swing states plus New Hampshire, but I do want to quickly get New Hampshire out of the way. I think that Newsom will win New Hampshire by maybe just under 5. He'll get it, just not to the point where he's going to be taking it off the radar for the GOP. Same as in New Jersey. It's sort of like New Hampshire, GOP has largely not contested it all that much as of late, but I do think that Newsom will not shore it up as much as he probably could. So, of course, the 7 swings. I'm going to start off in Arizona and give that one to Vance. I just think that Newsom, and this is kind of where the cracks start to show for Newsom. It's like he's not really great at recapturing some of that lost support. I did say that he was sort of like he was going to be part of that Biden coalition that gave Biden the victory in 2020, but he's not really going to go too far beyond that, and I also don't think that he can swing Arizona by 6 points. I think he can maybe do it by, 3, something like that. Like Arizona will probably go to Vance by between 2 and 3 points. I think we could see that happening. Nevada, I think we could say the same, maybe by like a 1 point to a 1.5, that kind of deal. Just because these states have really trended right in recent memory, and I don't think Newsom is going to be the one to win them back. I think he will do better than Kamala Harris in both of these states, but not to the point where he is winning them. So there's that. I do think that he'll get a state like Wisconsin back over, and he'll win it by more than Biden, just because, this was Harris's best swing state. I think that and of course this whole Rust Belt region has been reliably Democratic. It's not really wise to call it the blue wall anymore, but the wall, at any rate, did vote reliably Democratic from 1992 all the way to 2012. 5 straight elections plus 2020 in there as well. I do think that I could reasonably say Wisconsin as well as Michigan would go by over a point, like maybe 1 to 2. 1 to 3, something like that in these 2 states. So I think Newsom will get those. I think it's going to be the same story in Georgia. I think that this state has really trended left just an immense amount, and I think that Georgia going to Newsom is believable by more than Biden. He'll probably win Michigan by the same as Biden. If I had to guess right now, he'll probably win Wisconsin and Georgia by more, but he will lose Nevada and Arizona, where Biden did come out victorious in those 2 states. So now we're down to North Carolina and Pennsylvania. And I really quickly want to give Vance just the slight edge in North Carolina. This is another state that's been trending leftward. It's been one of those that's really edged the Democrats. I keep using that term, but it really, really has. It's like the Democrats just cannot finish in North Carolina, and it's just consistently been just a little out of reach. I think that he'll do better than Biden, not by much, maybe by like half a point. So this will go to Vance by maybe 3/4 of a point. I think that is believable. I don't think Newsom wins the state necessarily, but I do think that North Carolina going red, but just barely. Like I could see the Senate race going blue, for example, concurrently with this. I do think that could happen. So yeah, North Carolina, it'll hold for Vance and the GOP, but it will. It'll shrink down, but it won't go for Newsom. And that brings us to Pennsylvania, which we always seem to end up at. Just is always a tipping point state, it feels like. So this is a tough one for a number of reasons. Pennsylvania is just, it's real hard to gauge. It does seem like a state that has become redder over the years, but this one I really and truly do think comes down fully to the national environment. And I think right now that national environment favors Gavin Newsom and the Democrats. I do think that Newsom would get the state by maybe half a point, tops. I don't think it would be by more than that. It's all riding on the national environment here. I think Newsom might not win the popular vote by a whole lot. I'm gonna throw that one out there. He might not, but Pennsylvania, I think Newsom would just barely get it, and that would deliver him the presidency. He would win by less than Biden. And I mean, listen, I'm going to make a 2032 prediction involving this matchup tomorrow. And y'all are going to see just what I think of of what I think of Gavin Newsom. I think that, he is meeting the moment right now. But it's like, as time goes on, he just doesn't seem like somebody that can hold this. And he doesn't seem like somebody that can really expand on where Biden won. And so, with that in mind, I think that the national environment and the animosity towards the Trump administration is going to deliver Newsom the presidency in this scenario. But it's going to be a real fight in 32. And I'll get to that tomorrow. So, with that being said, this is the finished map. I definitely think that Newsom, while he's meeting the moment right now, and he's capturing some good energy for the Democrats, he is not the best that they could send. I've already made a video with somebody that I think is the best that they could send, but we'll just have to see about that, won't we? So, with that in mind, regardless, this is still, I think, the likeliest, as of today, of course, this is the likeliest matchup that we could see. So for now, that's going to wrap up. Thank y'all for watching. I've been Ice Cold, and I'll see y'all tomorrow for a rematch of this.